World War II. Stanley Heck, a grocery store employee from Chicago, Illinois, lays down communication wire in enemy territory. Suddenly, an unexpected and horrifying event takes place. A landmine explodes, costing Stanley both of his legs.
Now, if you think losing half of his limbs was bad enough, wait till you hear the rest of Stanley's story, because he also lost the love of his life, his high school sweetheart, and this led him down a series of lawsuits, one of which culminated in the changing of a law, the ruling of which remains on the books to this day. I'm your host, Yona Paley, and today we're going to be talking about the trials and tribulations of Stanley Heck, a World War II veteran, and how he lost his legs and his love.
Stanley Francis Heck was born March 11, 1915 in Wilmington, Illinois, to parents Frank and Nora. The Heck family had hailed from Germany and came to America some 35 years prior. Stanley had a younger brother, Russell, and they grew up in Chicago. While employed at a Kroger supermarket, Stanley met Henrietta Bunting, and the two fell in love. In 1939, they married and moved in with the Heck family. Another co-worker of theirs at the supermarket was Alvin Shupp, a meat merchandiser who was roughly 2 decades older than Henrietta. And so after his traumatic wartime injury, Stanley was devastated to learn that the reason her letters had stopped coming was that she had ditched him for Alvin. But rather than taking his heartbreak with style and grace, he decided to sue in the amount of $50,000 for alienation of affections. At first, it was tough sailing. The judge dismissed his case in 1945, citing a law in the Illinois legislature which banned heart balm suits. This was in place to prevent gold diggers from suing their partners over lost romance. But Stanley and his loved ones persisted. His parents filed a separate lawsuit against Henrietta, asking for any future military allotment checks to stop being cashed. And Stanley pushed all the way to the state Supreme Court, which struck down the heart balm law as unconstitutional. Soon thereafter, Alvin Shupp paid an out-of-court settlement to Stanley, and that chapter of his life came to a close. The ruling of Heck v. Shupp is still cited in lawsuits to this day, and so his legacy, while small, impacted more than one case. In 1947, 1 year after Heck v. Shupp was settled, Stanley had remarried to a woman named Lois, and was presented with a brand new car, equipped to be driven without the use of his legs. It contained steering wheel controlled accessibility and was furnished by the US government for veterans who had lost limbs. Stanley and Lois also had a couple of children, and they eventually moved to Clearwater, Florida, where Stanley died in 1967 at the age of 52. And what became of Henrietta, the sweetheart turned defendant? Well, she married Alvin Shupp in 1949, and the couple lived in Indiana and Michigan. After Alvin's death in 1960, she remarried a man named Robert Lindeman, and the pair remained married until his death. She died in 1995 at the age of 78.
Billions of individuals have lived, loved, lost, and died, and Stanley Heck is but one of these individuals, and yet he still managed to have an impact on the people around him. Now, this was not intentional, but rather due to his stubbornness and persistence, pushing forward on something that he felt was unjust and unfair. And it just goes to show that if you're stubborn enough, maybe someday you'll end up on this YouTube channel. I'm Yona Paley, signing off until next time.